Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Bridging Talks. I am your host, Majid Hashmi, and today we have a guest from South Korea, Seoul. So, Safiyah. So, she is the founder of Streetwise. So, yeah, nice to have you on, Safiyah.
Hi, glad to see you here.
Okay, great. Before we begin, can you just tell us a little bit about uh, what Streetwise is, and then we'll start with the other questions.
So, Streetwise is a
Yeah.
startup which is focused on training people in resilience and exploring a lot of difficult topics for a lot of people. So, it's essentially to bridge the gap between different communities and between genders as well, and to kind of reduce discrimination with better understanding. And we're currently developing an app for safety. So it's emergency response, but it's also
Mm.
training people in self defense, CPR, and other essential skills in a bit of an easier and more friendly approach.
Yeah, thanks for that short summary there. So it sounds cool and would love to like dive in, ask more stuff. But before that, what we'll do, we'll just ask for your just general introduction, curious about your background. So I know that you're from UK based on your accent and everything. And just to let you know, just to let the audience know, we met back in last year in Seoul. It was a global startup center, and I just thought Sophia's got an interesting background in what she does, and here we are. So please tell us about like you're based in London, and then you went Seoul, and yeah, anything that you like. So feel free.
Well, I was based in London. I was born and raised there for the most part.
Right.
But I'm actually mixed race, so I'm half English, half Malay. So I spent some time in Malaysia before coming to Korea. And essentially, it was just me figuring out where I could go to properly grow and build on my own. And originally, I'm from a film and documentary background, um, but I also was around arts and entertainment for quite some time. It's also because of my family's background. And somehow I ended up in a tech startup.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, and the fact that you went to a like the other side of the world as well, like you're based in Seoul right now. Yeah, that's great. And yeah, so yeah, what we're gonna do now is just talk about like how you managed to kind of start this up and your background. You said that it was something in film, like film production, right? So was that back in like university times, or did you study film production? Or did you have some commercial experience, or you just went straight to like after university started the tech startup? So
I'd been doing it for quite some time. So I studied film. I actually studied arts for a while. I did GCSE arts and
mm,
media in UK,
mm,
and I had an early start with it because my father was a quite a well-known music photographer, and he was a photojournalist. So I was around that kind of environment and helping him out with things, and I ended up in film and broadcasting. So I studied that in Malaysia first, and there was a lot more that I wanted to learn and explore, but I couldn't do it as much in Malaysia. Like there was more that I wanted to learn, and the teachers were just not there. And while exploring, I found what I was looking for in a university called Korea National University of Arts. And it's more of like an activist kind of vibe to it. Like the professors really care about social issues. They really care about things like politics and stuff like that. So it was more engaging for me, especially because I was really into investigative journalism and those kind of things, and initially just wanted to do documentaries. But I mean, COVID happened,
mm,
and well, I had been working in these industries for a long time, and I was very freely exploring production in different genres and different styles, different formats. it was actually quite difficult to maintain specific roles with visa needs and everything like that over here. And for a lot of people, even when they're in their own country, it was really difficult employment wise post graduation. So I ended up in the startup scene by accident just because I needed to get some work done. So I was working as a producer in a company, just like a normal startup, but they needed content. And so I learned about it from then, and it just went from there because I felt like I wanted to do a lot more with purpose, but it's really difficult to maintain the same purpose when you go in. Like you go into a company and they have this purpose, or they state there's a purpose, and then they kind of steer away from it, or it's not as they say. So I ended up having my own company because of that. Essentially, I had this purpose in mind, this goal in mind, and the only way to really fulfill that is to build my own. But then, yeah, there had to be more to it.
Yeah, that's it's quite cool though. That's quite nice that you weren't thinking about becoming a startup founder and so on, and circumstances led you to that. So that's great. And what I'm curious about, like, so you, so when was it like the first time you went to Seoul? So how long have you been in Seoul now for?
10 years. It's getting over 10 years now. I've been
Wow.
here quite a while. Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a long time. Yeah, 10 years. So yeah, let's just talk about like Streetwise and what made you make such an app like that? This platform. So you said the app is currently in development and so on, but the so Streetwise. So please like tell us like where did the idea come from? Like what made you go into it? So yeah, would love to hear that.
I want to say that we just went for that immediately, but I would say there was a long progression. Initially, like my co-founder, we'd been exploring other business ideas for a long time, and we've known each other for quite a while. And he was initially helping me with this other task that I had. So I was doing another venture, um, which was based on my father's photographic works. So it was about trying out NFT and selling photographs, old like black and white photographs on the internet. So we were trying that out together, and it just kind of brought up this idea of why don't we set up a business together? But we explored around 20 different ideas. So it wasn't just this one immediately. We thought of a lot of ideas, and we kind of went through that process of exploring a few of them. And Streetwise was actually the end result of a pivoted idea. So we initially wanted to have a safety app that had a lot of legal advice. But then after exploring the market, there was a lot of competition, but it was also a lot tougher than we realized. So we pivoted slightly, but it's more towards helping people with resilience and safety issues. Um, Mainly because I mean I came from this documentary background, and when I was studying broadcasting and documentaries in university in Korea, I was surrounded by um, a lot of women, a lot of feminists from Korea. And when I started, it was around the MeToo movement. And at that time, there was always a lot of conversations about gender issues and issues that women have here, birth rate and stuff. And when hearing them out, I could understand the women's point of view and the men's point of view quite well. But also, what I understood of it was that a lot of women feel unsafe, but there isn't really a solution. Like even for foreigners, it's really difficult to get justice if anything happens, if they've been assaulted, especially because of language barriers or not really knowing what options they have. So they often get the wrong information, or they get cheated even.
Yeah.
with the police, they're told to drop charges when they don't have to. But with locals as well, it's quite difficult, and the laws are not as strong as some countries, I'd say. Korea is like that, but also Japan is like that. So our idea was to come up with a solution that at least points them in the right direction. So we become the bridge
Yep.
that allows them to allows them to find the help they need when they're in a tense situation in which they wouldn't be able to think straight anyway. Because a lot of people, when they are in a difficult situation, they can't even, they struggle to even speak their own language, let alone a foreign language. And this applies to both
Yeah.
men and women. So, I mean, for now, we are aimed at women of a certain age group,
Right.
but the long-term goal is to expand to support for men as well.
Yeah, you're right about one thing is where when something bad happens, an incident, for example, in the street or wherever, not many even people can speak their own language, and like, yeah, so a solution that kind of helps with that, yeah, it's amazing. And yeah, can you just tell us about what the like whatever you're comfortable with, yeah, what the platform will do? So it automatically contact authorities or so on, or make some sort of a translation so then the person can understand. Because you mentioned something about the uh, let's say people when they're panicked, you know, the nervous system shuts down, so on, and panicking, shaking hands. So when they use your solution, how would that kind of how would it make that problem? How would that solve that problem? So again, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, so there we have a few layers of solutions that we are working on. It will take some time to release every single function, but essentially it starts with a chatbot in which the user can speak in their own language or whichever language they're comfortable with, and they can talk about the issue they have or ask for help when they need it. And that's the most basic thing. And we have like a panic button,
Okay,
the
okay.
equivalent of a panic button, where they can press it and it will alert the authorities. Like a lot of the safety apps on the market are quite simple with that. You either have a panic button that alerts contacts, like emergency contacts and friends, or kind of alerts the police, but in a different way if the company is connected to it. But with ours, we are working on having the information directly sent to the relevant authorities, and the information that the user gives, like of the situation or their location, and the information that they consent to sending off, will be sent to them in the language that is needed. So if it was a foreigner here and they can't speak that language or they're in a panic, there's a database that would be sent to them. And so if there's any incident details that they need to relay to the police, they can get that recorded beforehand so that the information doesn't get mixed up during investigation, which often happens as well. So we have like a file vault system for that. We have functions for different situations, for dealing with other kind of safety issues. For example, if there's domestic violence, there is a more secretive way of asking for help. So, like if there was somebody nearby or in the same household, a number of functions with that, and that is for during the actual incident. Post incident, there are a few other steps to support the users with post-trauma and monitoring. And if there's any follow-up incidents, basically the database would keep note of that, and there would be a backlog of what has happened. And the chatbot will check on them every so often and see, like, is this person's state of mind okay? Do they need more support? And then they would kind of they would recommend where to go and who to ask. And if they have a certain setting on, then it would alert some people who are needed for that support. For prevention, that includes training. So we have online courses in self-defense and CPR. We're working on getting those, and it's professionals from those fields. So it's not us specifically that's doing it.
Right.
And that would come from a variety of different backgrounds. So there are what we have in planning is also even traditional Malaysian martial arts and police trained, legally approved self-defense as well, and other such things.
Yeah, it's great, you know. And I think, yeah, what you're doing can help people, and that's a great thing there, especially when it comes to that situation, like incidents and stuff. Oh yeah, thanks for that, Sophia. Yeah, it was really nice to hear that. And so what we're gonna do is just move on to our next question, and basically we just want to know like what kind of led you to make this like this platform that you're making, this startup. We're just more interested in like the personal experiences. Like, have you faced, or do you know anyone who have faced like problems in the street in Seoul or Asia that made you want to make this? So if there's any like personal stories, whether it's yourself or anyone you know, yeah, feel free to tell us, and how that kind of made you uh, do what you're doing now.
A lot,
Okay.
yes. I mean, it's a common thing
Right.
for, like, among women. We say this a lot. There's we for like every woman will know not just at least five, but several women who have also been assaulted or
Yeah.
felt uncomfortable in some way or experienced some kind of difficult situation like that. And most of the time, they either do not, like, choose not to report it because of whatever reason they're afraid or they feel it won't get anywhere, or they tried and they really didn't get anywhere. They had difficulties, or it caused more problems, or it just went downhill. And especially for a lot of women who don't have leverage financially, they struggle with this a lot more because they always think, oh well, it's too expensive to take legal action against somebody, or they can't afford a lawyer, so they'll just have to drop it or something like that. But it's very debilitating because it's hard to avoid such situations. And in some countries that might seem more obvious that is a problem, but in others, like for example, Korea, on the outside, if you see, oh, like you can put your phone or your
Yeah.
wallet on the table and go off, it'll still be there. So
Yeah.
people assume it's very
Yep.
safe. But the part that is unsafe is women's safety. And it's very hidden. So like if you see in the media, it's just like, oh, it's really safe here,
Yeah.
everybody's nice, blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot of hidden things that happen. And this applies to a lot of countries. But in Korea, even going to a club, I mean, I'm not the kind of person
Yeah.
that goes to a
Yeah.
club,
Yeah.
but going to a club, there are lots of issues of even the clubs themselves having some deals with some very, like, bad people who they want to play around with somebody, they want some kind of entertainment, and so they drug or spike the drinks. So they drug the girls, and then some things happen. And I mean, there was some incidents like that in the past, like Burning Sun and everything, but it's ongoing, and even now it still happens a lot. And aside from that, with technology getting more and more advanced, there's a lot of issues of cybercrimes around living. Um, the worst ones are deepfake because
Yeah. I heard of
even
that.
just
Yeah.
a picture, yeah, even just with a picture, people can do a lot of things, and that is also something that I had experienced. And it's it's almost inevitable that if somebody is seen, like they're working in media or even YouTube or television or just whatever, they could become a target eventually. Whether it's somebody threatening them and saying, oh, I've created this deep fake of you, and if you don't give me money, then I'm going to release it. Even if it's fake, it can ruin somebody's reputation, or it could just make them feel really horrible. In my case, I experienced that um, in another way because it was actually it was actually Islamophobia. So the idea of, oh well, because you wear a scarf, I'm going to do this to you. So it ruins that image of modesty that you have. And if you don't give money, then we're going to release it to people you know. And the thing that made me feel like we really need this kind of platform is whenever I went to the police for any incident, I'm fluent in Korean. I know a lot more of the laws and I know how to defend myself. I'm trained in martial arts, but I always think to myself, I'm able to do this much and it's still frustrating. But what about people who can't speak the language? What about people that don't know about the laws? What about people that don't have this much courage or they don't know how to physically defend themselves? What do they do then? And that was always a terrifying thought to me because I know a lot of people who have been through such things. And even among my friends, there'd been incidents like that where they were sexually assaulted, and even the women around them weren't very supportive. So they just say, "Oh, it's nothing. It's just, it's just a bit of fun or whatever," and they don't take it very seriously. And then there'd been like when it's not assault, like a couple of years back, was it 2, 3 years ago? There was the Itaewon crowd
Oh
crush
yes, yeah.
disaster. And that was another reminder of why essential skills are quite vital for everybody to have. Because a lot of the people there were foreigners or there were lots of women, and there weren't that many men around that had training in that. And the ones that had training had gone to military service and they still remembered it, but the majority couldn't remember how to do it, or they were never trained, or they learned a little bit. But with things like CPR, it's all about practice, and you have to have practical practice to a certain extent that you know exactly how much pressure to put, which could potentially break you could break someone's ribs, and that's something that people get really afraid of. So most people wouldn't be able to do such a thing, even especially in a situation where someone's dying. It would be very difficult for the average person to do so, but most of the people there couldn't do that, and there wasn't enough police around or paramedics, and so a lot of people died. So even at that time we were thinking there needs to be something done about it. But if we just think, oh, the government needs to do this and that, if we only think that the government has to provide solutions each time, the society won't progress. So there's that. And because I came from a documentary background, it's also this thing of we always hear the problems
Yeah.
and we talk about the problems, but we're not the ones providing the solution. We might suggest a solution, but we don't provide it. And that was what was frustrating, because I'd also worked in NGOs, I've done that kind of thing, and it's always talking about the problem and never actually doing the action. So that's partly where it came from. It's like, what if we create a solution? And I don't have technical skills, but I know people who do. So we bring them together, and I still get to do documentaries and still get to do my creative works, but I'm leveraging basically every skill and all those things that I'd done before and what I love. I put it together, and I'm able to do all those things while also helping people in a way that really matters. So that was what it's about.
Yeah, thanks for a very detailed explanation and everything, like from talking about the personal experiences, the deepfake stuff, and all of that stuff. And yeah, I mean, and we can understand where what problems you're trying to solve and everything. And yeah, this is something not just in South Korea, but it's also in Japan as well, where there's like in Japan they have this the train problem there. They call it chikans. In Korean it's something else, but that's basically guys who basically touch girls in the trains, and they'll just they can't, they're just paralyzed, they can't do anything. So if they have a solution like yours where a Chikan comes on the train, I'm sure this will help them. And in Korea and elsewhere, so yeah, it's yeah. I personally, I'm seeing something like that where I've assisted, but there was other men out there who didn't really do anything, and I was just looking at them, be like, what were you lot doing? Like, just anyway, because this stuff doesn't happen in UK as much compared to Asia. But yeah, that's just something yeah, people should look into, and yeah. So yeah, really appreciate that. We're just gonna just based on like the tech and everything with AI coming involved, and how do you think now that will assist us now? So with AI coming, with the with applications, and they're using AI solutions. I mean, I'm not sure if your um, startup is using AI to help with that, but so what's your opinion about that, and how it can it protect? Like, for example, you mentioned in the beginning that when when there's an incident happens and a foreigner living in Seoul, let's say a British girl is in Seoul, something bad happens, she meets some dodgy guy in a club and she goes to the police station, there's no language barrier. But now we have AI where she could use it to translate whatever, better understanding, stuff like that. How do you think now AI is going to assist with that?
So there's often there throughout our process there was quite a few times
Yeah.
where there were misconceptions about what we would be doing with
Right.
AI. I
Right.
think it's also because people are kind of afraid of AI at the same time.
Right.
They're thinking that it's going to replace them. But how we are using it for this platform is just to fill in the gaps where humans aren't able to always be there,
Mm.
because you can't always have people on call
Mm.
24/7. When it comes to the police, anywhere that can support the particular language that the person speaks, that is the part that no country has been able to master entirely. Like when there is some kind of police report that needs to be court thing, and also emotionally it can be very difficult as well. So it was more about emotional intelligence at the same
Mm.
time, which might seem unusual when it comes to AI. Often, especially when it comes to something emotionally difficult to talk about, whether it's for a female victim or a male victim, but especially with male victims, people feel that they would be judged, or maybe they feel shame as well for
Yeah.
some certain kinds of incidents. And it's extreme people about that. If it's something like sexual assault,
Yeah.
it's really difficult to feel safe with, say, a police officer of the opposite gender, even if you know that they're well intentioned and they're there to help you. It's really difficult to really speak honestly and to feel emotionally regulated as well. And it's there's also the thing of, like, this is also something we'd explored a lot at the early stages when it comes to men as well. Men often avoid taking action with things that happens to them, even when it's just like work injustice, for example. They tend to avoid that, especially in Asia. They'll avoid it to the point that, like, they could go a year without pay, for example, or some other kind of situation, just because it's like, oh, if I report this or if I
Mm.
talk about it, it's embarrassing, and I'm a man and I'm supposed to like deal with it. It will just deal with itself or something like that, and it makes the problems a lot more difficult than it has to be. So by having this emotional support by an AI system, they get this kind of help with emotional regulation in the system that we've created. They also have somebody to talk to that is a bit more friendly, without having to worry about whether that person's going to judge them or anything, because essentially it's AI, it's a mascot. So we
Mm.
have this character that we've created, and it's just this friendly character, and they can talk about anything, and they won't be judged. And the chatbot will find the best solutions for them and point them in the right direction for those things. So there's no judgment to it. They could say the most ridiculous things and it doesn't matter. But also during particular incidents, like when they're pressing the emergency button, for example, there is an option for them to get some guided support for emotional regulation, for them to calm down while they're waiting for the authorities to come. So that includes like sound frequencies and breathing exercises and things like that. So it's more about just having an assisted help from AI rather than relying on it or replacing people.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. Where AI can fill in the gaps when there's no people. That's where the AI chatbot, and of course you also mentioned that there's there's things which they want to describe probably in graphic or whatever. They can do that through a system rather than a person, so that's they can feel more comfortable. And yeah, that's also you mentioned about like females who are going to the police station to file a report. Sometimes the fear of being ashamed is much greater than the actual, the fear of like what happened to them. So they can just let that go because again, shame and stuff. They want to protect their modesty, and sometimes what happens. So yeah, that's interesting, and yeah. So thanks for that. And yeah, now I'm just a little bit curious about. You said you've done film, and so since you already have like experience in the film industry, you've done documentaries and so on, how is that kind of helping you now with your current life, like your current startup journey? Like with documentaries, it's all about explaining things, right? Like you show a video, the video shows for itself. How are you using those approaches in your day-to-day life with your startup?
Well, for us, we have two separate divisions in the startup. There is the tech division
All
that
right,
deals with the development, and there's a creative division. And of course, we have online courses, but we'll also be having a lot of content
all
that
right,
will be released. And that's the part that I handle. So I'm in charge of the creative division. For now, in these early stages, I've dealt with the design and those things. But eventually, we will have other team members who will take that over. But yeah, I'm still creating content, and we are preparing to do a partnership with another company for documentaries and other kind of content. And we're also in talks with an animation studio about making a kind of spin-off animation related to the backstory of the characters in our app. And that's actually how we will be promoting the brand a lot as well. So it's not just general, like normal marketing, but also a lot of online social media content and documentary films released in film festivals and film screenings, but with brand name and some kind of relation to the app and stuff like that. So it's ongoing, and we've applied that consistently even now. So I've been able to be more like do more of the stuff that I trained for and that I had worked on now compared to before.
yeah. It's just good to know that you've got that um, experience and it's helping you now, right now, and with the creative division and everything that you're doing. And since like again, question about documentaries and stuff, the storytelling aspect. When you're doing it to for your branding, for example, pitching and so on, like when you pitch to people, whether they are looking for investment or whatever, showing to people, how is that kind of helping you with that? I mean, are you using the same approach like you used to in your filming days to explain things and everything?
Well, I guess what the difference is, the type of people that we're pitching to, the things that they would care about would be slightly different. But yeah, with creative skill, it does come in handy because essentially when pitching any kind of idea or a business or you know, sending applications, it's more about marketing and advertising what we do rather
Mm.
than, just writing the idea or anything. So essentially, it is kind of marketing. And I had done marketing as well. So like we tend to think of it as more of an advert. So how do we shape this advert? How are we telling the story? Who is our audience right now? So usually how we frame it, it's like that. And even like currently,
Mm.
we have like my partner is originally from tech, so
Mm.
it's the typical situation of the tech department is usually very shy and introverted. They're not really used to it. So I've been using kind of techniques that we use in drama to relax and stuff and kind of prep for emotionally for presentations and recordings and things like that. And yeah, we've used that a lot. And I mean, I'm kind of a multi-dimensional artist as well. So
Mm.
I mean, for the things that we've been working on recently, we've been working on like AR filters and 3D animated um, visuals for our stuff as well. So we're not just having static, boring pitch decks and stuff. We're adding a little bit more depth to it because of this background.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sounds great. It's nice to have different means to show what you're doing, like you said, animation and other stuff. That's cool. I think that's connecting to like another question is about the startup ecosystem in South Korea in Seoul. My experience as well, I've been to like Global Startup Center and I've met other people like been doing from different countries, different backgrounds, and when we met, yeah, I was like, what you're doing sounds cool. So can you just tell us, like, as a female founder who's international from UK or um, living in Korea, what challenges are you facing right now in terms of just getting everything, uh, you know, from creating the solution to talking to people, finding partners? How are you finding all of that? So you can just tell us whatever you feel comfortable with.
Mm, I'm my experience might be slightly different to a lot of other people for this. I
Right.
mean, when I talk to a lot of other foreign founders,
Right.
they tend to have this trouble finding co-founders, especially from Korea, or they struggle with the networking aspect when finding Koreans more than foreigners. Um, but I've been lucky in the sense that I didn't have that trouble because I'd been here for quite a while and I speak the language. So because I went to university here, my foundation is a bit stronger on the Korean side than,
Mm.
say, in my own country. So that was a bit simpler. And even with my co founder, we already knew each other. So it's after trialing other projects together that we decided to do this together. But things that I would say is quite challenging is Korea still like the stage that Korea is at with diversity is very it's going to take at least two more decades for them to be used to foreigners. I'm going to say that because the
Yeah.
stage that they're at
Yeah.
reminded me of when I was around maybe 4 years old in UK. I would walk around and
Yeah.
I was this little curly haired
Yeah.
white looking kid, and then I'm with
Yeah.
my mom.
Yeah.
People in the white areas would assume, "Oh, is that your nanny or something?" Because she's brown.
Yeah. Right. Right.
But in Korea, it's still it's going to take some time
Mm.
because I mean, generally, you don't get people being so outwardly racist,
Right.
but when it comes to the startup ecosystem, the parts that becomes difficult is that even when there's government grants, there's usually two types. They'll
Mm.
have the local grants
Right.
where they aim it at everyone, Koreans, whatever, and the assumption is Koreans that are applying.
Right.
And then when you say international, sometimes it's like, oh, that means it includes foreigners here. But then their aim is to choose foreigners who are overseas and bring them here. So if you're a foreigner that's already here,
Mm.
you're in the gray area of
Right.
I apply for the overseas one just because I'm a foreigner, which they will tell me to do.
Yeah.
do I not be picked or have less chance because I'm not overseas? And then even if you want to apply for the local one, you can apply for the local one, but sometimes, because especially if it's a government grant, there are some judges, and this will not be talked about much. There are some judges who would look at the foreign founder and be like, this is the taxpayers' money. Why should I give this to this foreigner when I should give the opportunity to our people? So, because of that, sometimes it's better for, say, my co-founder to apply in our name, but sometimes the structure of the application doesn't allow that. So they're like, who's the CEO? And he's not the CEO. So either way, it's going to point back to me. And so we're in this gray area that's quite difficult. And I find that quite restrictive. Language wise, like I'd say most foreign founders here, they will complain about language. They'll say, oh, there should be more language support or everything should be in English. But I kind of disagree because English is like, I feel like, especially since I grew up in UK, we were always spoiled about language. We Everything has to be in English for us, and when there's foreigners in UK, they have to know our language. But then when we go to another country, suddenly they have to know our language. It doesn't make sense. So for me, we should be learning their language and just kind of assimilate. It's only fair. But a lot of people have a problem with that, and they always complain about it and things. And I disagree because, as well, even if you do any kind of business or just communicate with people in general, you can speak to people and they could understand you if you're speaking the language that maybe they've learned. But if you speak to them in their mother tongue, it reaches them a lot deeper. It will go
Yeah.
to their heart. So if you really want to build deeper connections, whether it's business or any other personal connections, knowing more languages is the power.
Right.
So I don't really resonate with that much, but the thing about diversity when it comes to opportunities is very important. So I'd say that's the biggest one. The other one is um, the government system itself doesn't like all the information that is given to foreigners in foreign centers is very different to what's given to Koreans in the Korean centers. And when they're informed how to incorporate the business, both sides are learning completely different information. And then when you go to the actual center to register, it's also different and nobody's communicating with each other. So everything is just all over the place. So that does need to change. But actually recently I've been in talks with some other founders, and we're going to be having a meeting soon with some people from the current government. So the current party, we're going to be meeting with them and actually addressing this exact issue.
Yeah, so yeah, there's some interesting stuff there. Like that you mentioned about the grey area. The foreigners are already living here, so they either they help the overseas foreigners or the locals, and the foreigners are living here. Sometimes the grey area. So yeah, and since we were just talking about the startup stuff, how like the ecosystem and everything, just curious about your experience right now though, what you're going through with the I believe it's called the K Startup Grand Challenge. So how's that experience going for you so far?
Well, it's still early stages for that program and others. So it's just, checking out um, like it's the valid we validate our idea and discussing and stuff like that. Further down the line, there's pitching and stuff like that. So probably we would know a lot more then. At this stage, we're just thinking, we just give it a try, and if it sticks, it sticks. If it doesn't, there is other grants anyway. So I mean,
Yep.
we've been participating in a lot of programs, so it's yeah, we're just taking it lightly for now.
Yeah, sure. Well, we wish you the best of luck. Hope that goes well. And yeah, it's always like all these programs, they all take a bit of time, again, competition and everything. So lots of people want that. So, well, what you were doing, I'm sure you'll get something there. And based on like what you said in the beginning about your background, you mentioned something about you knowing martial arts. I mean, we're just going to move on to a topic about our interests and just yeah, your daily life stuff. But what I'm curious about is just martial arts. How, like, when did you start martial arts, and how has that kind of developed you as a character? And then we'll ask something else later. So let's focus on that. So yeah, please let us know about that.
I always loved martial arts. So I mean, some little girls like to play princesses and
Right.
play with dolls and stuff. But with me, I was the kid, the weird kid that would wear
Yeah.
lion masks and run around and watch Jackie Chan movies and then try learning kicks and
Yeah.
then play with all these boys because I just wanted to jump off a tree. So I was always into it,
Mm.
but I only started properly learning
Mm.
martial arts when I came to Asia. Because in Britain, there are places to
Yeah.
learn, but
Yeah.
the thing that didn't sit well with me was that a lot of the schools are taught by white men who don't know the culture and the history and the background behind it. And the problem with that is you can't master the martial art unless it's something, general like MMA or boxing or something.
Mm-hmm.
You can't master the martial art unless you know the origin, where it came from,
Mm.
the mental aspect. And you won't understand it fully from somebody who doesn't have that background. So I waited it out. And when I moved to Malaysia, I started learning traditional Malaysian and technically Indonesian martial arts, silat gayung and silat cekak, and also did some archery. And I got into things like horseback archery.
Mm.
And yeah, I did that kind of thing. And at one point, entered like tournaments and did demos and performed in different places. And then I came to Korea and they taught those things in university. So I was doing archery and horseback archery and learning sword fighting and all these different things. And then I got into kickboxing, MMA, boxing, those kind of things. And it just kind of stuck. It's mental wise, this is actually part of what we've been building with the courses and the platform as well, is that even if what people see
Mm.
is a more physical thing when it comes to martial arts, the 90% of it would be mental. So with all these things, when you train with it consistently, any difficult incident that happens, it just comes like muscle memory. So you don't even know what's happening. Like your brain hasn't really registered what's happening in front of you, but your body's already reacted and dealt with
Yeah.
it. So for me, after starting that, it just became consistent. So it's a part of my life now, and also why I feel the importance of like building this kind of platform is that you have to have that foundation even to deal with emotions and mental strength. And a lot of people don't have that. So they struggle with a lot of
Yeah.
things, even especially emotional regulation. And I would say a lot of Koreans have that problem. They don't know how to deal with their emotions. So it's essential.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I'm a person who's been going gym for like 10 years, so like mainly doing powerlifting and stuff. But used to do a bit of boxing back then. But I want to get back into it, so I was thinking about kickboxing. So that's something it's quite cool. It's just growing up, I watched one of my favorite actors, Van Damme. So I watched his Kickboxer and Bloodsport, two favorite films of mine. So yeah, it's just motivation. But yeah, it's nice to know, and I do agree that once you know any sorts of martial art or any like fighting, or whether you go to gym or whatever, if you have a strong physique or you're physically capable of defending yourself and so on, it builds up your mental like confidence as well, and vice versa. Like it's like bread and butter. and then you can use that same thing for your startup and so on. So it's nice. Um, yeah. So other than martial arts, like what else do you like? Do you have any hobbies? Any additional hobbies that you like, or you can just tell us about what you like to do in your free time for leisure or anything?
Mm, I mean, I do a lot of the. I would say a lot of the things that I do are kind of linked, especially these days.
Right.
I like, I mean, martial arts kind of goes with it. I
Right.
like exercise as well, but more intense forms of it. So, high intensity interval training, CrossFit, those kind
Mm.
of things, weightlifting. And I mean, it doesn't apply here, and it's probably a bit weird
Mm.
to say this after talking about startups and resilience, but I like collecting um, old battle weapons.
Right.
So those kind of things that have a lot of history, but also it's, yeah, I'm into that kind of thing. Although it's actually not as easy to find such things here. Um, and I don't know if this counts as a hobby. I really believe in um, a lot of, like, I like to get involved with humanitarian projects as much as I can. And I've been consistently doing that even throughout this startup phases. Um, Previously, I worked in some NGOs and did some volunteering and things like that. Currently, I've been doing that with a team of friends. So we're not under an NGO, but we're actually just doing projects from time to time. Um, we make like handmade goods and stuff like that, and we sell it and raise money for charity. And also just recently started a run club for that. So it's
Mm.
like we train each other in running, and then we run for these particular causes and then send off the money. So I mean, I guess that's kind of a hobby-ish, but yeah, it's kind of linked to a certain extent. It's always about creating impact or doing things that matter. Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's got some nice hobbies there. So like martial arts, you like collecting stuff and running. Yeah, it's all good. And yeah, humanitarian stuff. Yeah, it's always a good thing to do. So just want to ask like your vision for Streetwise. I mean, what's your like long term vision for Streetwise? Where do you see yourself? Like let's say, where do you see the startup or the vision in 3 years time? Let's say.
In 3 years' time, I mean, by that time, hopefully, all of the functions that we had in mind
Mm.
will all be in effect.
Right.
So we'd have the courses, we'd
Mm.
have more language support, and we'd have like the frequency functions, and all those
Yep.
things will come up. And we probably have like um, documentaries and films that we've been planning will be finally out there. But my aim would be that we would have expanded to several more countries that really need it. So for now, we are mainly just targeting Korea because this is
Mm.
where we're starting. But we do aim to expand to Japan
Mm.
and Southeast Asia, and possibly um, possibly the Middle East. I mean, people say that we should go to the West, but at the same time, if we're talking about in 3 years,
Mm.
we kind of have to see how the state of
Right.
the world. It could be good, but at the same time, there's a lot of uncertainty around that. And initially, the aim was to build something that would benefit Asia as well. So yeah, that's the aim.
Yeah.
And at the same time, because we also have the creative aspect of it, the films that I would aim that the films that we would create would also have a lot of impact on people and get them thinking about important issues and understanding people a lot more. So by then, if it's in that 3-year mark, by then I would hope that our aim would have expanded beyond just women from like the ages of 20 to 40 to men as well, and be able to bridge that gap and get people talking a lot more about each other and understanding the issues that men have and the issues that women have. And that's partly what I really wanted to do as well.
Yeah, well, sounds great. Hope it can expand and hope loads of people use the platform in the future. So, just want to say, how can pretty much at this stage, how can other people support you and collaborate with your mission? So,
Collaborations.
so like,
Well,
yeah, so collaboration, like for example, it could be from helping you expose what you're doing more. Uh, from like you were mentioning, like you've got some partners, like you know the people who are doing the companies are partners, some training videos you were mentioning. But in terms of collaboration, we're just talking about how can people help you promote your idea more, like promote your stuff more, so then people can support you in your mission.
well, for now, I mean,
Mm.
we're still pre-launch with the
Mm.
app, so we're very open to collaborations. And on one side, skills-wise, that's also helpful. But we're also open to people telling us their stories and struggles that they have had, like basically for our why. And that's something that we're working on soon, is a campaign about telling the stories of other people, other women who have gone through things that they would need that platform for. So, I mean, we're open to that for now. And soon we'll be starting to release more and more content on our company accounts. So we'll have content just about our process and how things are going and stuff like that. So we'll probably be releasing more and more of those. So if there's anybody that is interested in taking part in that or contributing in any way, that would be great. We would be recruiting eventually, but for now, it heavily depends on getting more funding. So yeah, so that's how we are at right now, and just getting started with the documentary and animation partnerships.
Yes, well, I appreciate all of that, and we're just gonna go to our the final part, and we just want to ask for like general advice for you that you may have for anyone that wants to do get into the startup world. It can be for a female or male. Let's say someone from UK done the similar journey as you, where someone from the West went to East, started a startup. What advice would you give to someone who just doesn't know anything about startup and wants to do what you're doing in a way, but not entirely your idea, but can be anything. So anything that you think is nice, and yeah. So if you could just help us with that.
So nowadays, now that I think about it, because I come from a creative background, the one thing that I have been thinking about a lot
Mm.
is why other fields are not taught about business and law and all these things as well. Because the more I got into this, the more I thought actually all of us could benefit from learning business. All of us could benefit from having this entrepreneurial mindset, because otherwise it's really difficult to survive nowadays. So, I mean, I've been working on tackling that with even my alma mater for helping the future generations with this and kind of guiding them in that way. What I would advise is to diversify skills and not stick to one thing. So if you
Mm.
are like with me, even though I'm from this creative background,
Mm.
it's also vital to understand business and understand to a certain extent tech, AI development, coding, things like that, just to a certain point where you can understand it and understand what's needed. And even if you have a developer, understand whether or not they're doing their job properly or whether they're kind of screwing you over. And the other thing is knowing the law, studying law and knowing the different regulations with different things, not just to abide by it, but to see the loopholes and understand what you could do
Yeah.
to make things a lot easier. Because mostly lawyers, especially here, will not tell you those things. They'll do it in a normal linear way and they'll expect you to do things a normal way. And especially if they're not a highly paid top lawyer, you're just going to get surface level effort. So they're just going to be like, oh, why do you want to do it this way? Just do it this normal way. What are you, then they're not going to go out of their way to search for another solution for you. So studying the law and finding clauses that could benefit you in the way that you want is key to actually doing things the way you want and not having a headache down the line. And also learning the language. Learn a lot of languages, keep learning, keep training, and invest in skills a lot. Like, just because you majored in a certain thing doesn't mean that that's enough. The learning should keep growing. So, like, with me, I'm proactively going into coaching and stuff like that, learning how to improve pitches, how to improve this and that, so that we can level up even further. And that applies not just to me, but my team members as well. So in order to do things here more easily, those skills are quite vital. And also don't believe people that easily. Because one thing is other founders can screw people over or tell them lies or betray them or whatever. There's a lot of drama that happens in the startup scene. There are even
Yeah.
people who bribe others for grants, actually. So, I mean, there's that. There's a lot of drama, but also some of the startup advisors and those kind of people. Sometimes what they say is isn't exactly 100% true all of the time. There's two different things. It could depend on what fits with their KPIs and their agenda. So if they need an X amount of people to do this a certain way, they will tell you that's the only way, even if it's not true. And if you just believe them, you might be spending a lot more money that you have to. And you could be wasting money because of it, or set up your business in a way that you don't want to. And the other side is a lot of the people that give advice have never set up a business before. So you do need to expand your horizons with that, which is why language is also important. So you get the information from the foreign side, but
Yep.
you also get the information from the Korean side.
Yep.
You get mentors who are Korean, you get mentors who are foreign. You kind of widen that out and compare and then find that middle way. So that's the thing.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, that's again, you were talking about the other founder stuff. Yeah, as much as we want to, especially in the startup stuff, there are things which are confidential, whatever, advice wise. So it's always good to go to the right advice for that. And I believe when we were in Gang, what was it? I forgot the place. Global Startup Center. Yes, in Yoksam. Yes, that's where we met Safiyah. So you mentioned something about like the shark stuff, and it's really important where it's really important that if you have an idea or something, or you're building a startup, it's that get it trademark, and that's something nice. And yeah, we recently did that as well, and yeah, it's something good to have. And yeah, so we just want to going into the final part now, and we just want to say how can our audience contact you. So if you want to talk about anything, any your last message you want to say to the audience, and you can give them your contact info, anything you like. So I'll just give it to you now, Safiyah.
Well, for now, we are mainly going through the Streetwise Inc. pages. So, I mean, we've got our website, which is it's linked with our prototype. So it's not like you can't really see all of
Right.
what we've developed yet. But the easiest way to contact us is on Streetwise LinkedIn or my LinkedIn, so it's Safiyah Kilby, or um, our Instagram or our Facebook. So that's the easiest way. So, I mean, if there is anybody who is interested in our platform or would like to hear more, that's the easiest way. We will be releasing more content about it in the near future as well. So, I mean, it would be great to get to know a lot more people who believe in this as well.
Okay, so thanks for that, Safiyah. So Safiyah's contact details will be in that description, whatever that she's comfortable with, we'll put it there. And yeah, we just want to say thank you for listening to Bridging Talks episode 3, and we'll have a next episode soon. So thank you very much, everyone. Take care. This is your host, Majid Hashmi, and take care.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We hope you liked it. Please leave a review, subscribe, or share it to anyone you like. If you're a global founder, or as a professional, or a founder that is interested in doing global business, we would love to hear your story. If you would like to be featured on Bridging Talks, please email me at podcast@bridgingconnect.com, or you can visit our website bridgingconnect.com/podcast. I am your host, Majid Hashmi, and I will see you soon. Take care.